Developing right now on Morning News Now, under observation. This morning, 18 American passengers in quarantine at medical centers in Omaha and Atlanta after arriving back in the U.S. from a cruise ship hit by the hantavirus. Now, health officials saying the risk to the public is very low.
There are no guarantees in life. We're putting as many measures in place as possible to ensure that people are safe and healthy.
We'll bring you the latest on the passengers' conditions, the precautions being taken, and what doctors want you to know. Also developing, President Trump setting the stage for an historic summit with Chinese President Xi Jinping as tension grows over the war with Iran. President Trump saying a ceasefire with China's economic ally is now on life support after rejecting Iran's response to a U.S. peace plan. The tension overseas costing Americans here at home as gas prices continue to rise. We'll have an update. Plus, grocery gouging. We'll look at how AI-powered pricing could have you paying more for your groceries and the growing efforts to fight back. And getting mad gains, literally. We'll unpack the science behind what's called rage workouts and why exercising while angry can help improve your physical and mental health. I guess maybe punch a little harder
there you
or
go.
something.
Mad gains. I like that.
Yeah.
Mad gains. Good morning. Good to have you with us. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. Thank you for beginning your day with us. We're going to start this hour with the latest on the deadly hantavirus outbreak. This morning, 18 of the passengers who were on board that cruise ship, they are back here in the U.S. and being monitored at medical centers in Nebraska and Atlanta. Health officials said one of the people in Atlanta is showing mild symptoms and one of the people in Nebraska has tested positive.
Now, we're told those two passengers traveled in biocontainment units on a plane. They're now being monitored. Overseas, medical crews helped evacuate dozens of other passengers who were still left on that boat. Now, the ship, working with a limited crew, is heading back to the Netherlands, where it will be disinfected. NBC News International correspondent Raf Sanchez has been following the story, joins us now with the latest. Raf, good morning. So what do we know about these two Americans, the one with the mild symptoms, the other who tested mildly positive? I mean, what does that even mean?
Joe, Savannah, good morning. Yeah, so testing mildly positive, it basically means exactly what it sounds like. This is a patient who has tested positive, but they are just over the threshold for that positive test. That can indicate a number of things. It could be a very mild infection. It could potentially be the early stages of an infection. This is somebody who is in Nebraska. They are being kept in medical isolation. So that means not only away from the other passengers from that ship, but they are actually having very limited contact with medical personnel. But the word from Nebraska right now is that they are not showing symptoms, so they will be kept under observation. The other person who is showing some mild symptoms is in Atlanta, along with their partner, just two of them in that Atlanta facility. We saw them being taken by wheelchair into Emory University yesterday. Their symptoms are mild. We are waiting now for official confirmation whether or not that is hantavirus. Guys.
And then tell us about the others, Raf, who are quarantining with no symptoms, no positive test at this point, but who were on that ship. How long will they be held, and what are their everyday lives going to look like during this time?
Yeah, so as we know, guys, the incubation period for hantavirus is 6 weeks. So it's very possible you have the virus, you're infected with it, you're not showing any symptoms. The approach being taken in the United States is people are starting off in these two centers in Nebraska and in Atlanta. And then after that, they are going to be free, assuming they don't test positive, they aren't showing symptoms, to return to their own homes. They will be expected to remain quarantining there, but they will be kept under the observation of local state health officials. Now, that is quite a different approach to what we are seeing over here in Europe. In both Spain and France, people who came off that ship are facing a mandatory 42-day quarantine in government health facilities. The goal there is to make absolutely sure that there is minimal chance of them spreading it to anyone else. The folks in these facilities, they're being kept in individual rooms, daily medical checks. They're having food delivered to them, obviously. They actually have Pelotons in their rooms so they can do exercise there. So in some ways, it's a little bit of a reminder of COVID and the quarantining people had sometimes to do after coming off international flights.
Which was also a very good time for Peloton as well, we should know. So obviously, we're laser focused on the American cases here, but you mentioned other countries. Anything we know about passengers in other countries? Any new cases reported?
Yeah, so all 150 people off the ship. They came off in Tenerife now. They've been scattered either to their home countries or to third countries. We do have a little bit of news about a British citizen who was being treated in South Africa. That was one of the first confirmed cases. He appears to be doing better, which is encouraging. There is also, though, guys, a French woman who was returned to France. She's in hospital there. She is in intensive care right now. The French Prime Minister is saying she is in a stable condition. That is obviously concerning, though. 3 confirmed deaths from the hantavirus so far. Hopefully no more to come. Guys.
Raf, so all the passengers are now off the ship itself, along with its crew, heading back to the Netherlands. What happens next for this boat?
Yeah, so it's sailing into the port of Rotterdam. We expect that it's going to get there Sunday evening, so basically a week after it unloaded the passengers in Tenerife. Rotterdam is a port that has a lot of experience of dealing with ships where there has been an outbreak of an infection. We saw a cruise ship where there was a pretty serious norovirus outbreak come into Rotterdam. And basically, they have protocols in place for the deepest of deep cleanings. So disinfecting communal areas, going through cleaning individual cabins. You have some 25 crew members who are still on the ship, as well as a doctor and a nurse who are monitoring them. Guys.
Right. Raf Sanchez. Raf, thank you so much.
Well, as we just discussed there with Raf, there is now a big focus on what those quarantine measures will look like for the Americans back in the U.S. and how long they will last.
NBC News national correspondent Aaron Gilchrist takes a look at how health officials are approaching the challenge.
18 Americans quarantining inside special medical facilities in Omaha and Atlanta. But officials have not said how long they'll stay.
They actually can move home and continue their quarantine there, and then the tracking will be turned over to the state and local health departments.
But in Spain, passengers will be forced to quarantine for 42 days, clearing the hantavirus's incubation period, which would ensure there is no infection. And France says it will isolate its passengers for 42 days. Dr. Ashish Jha oversaw the COVID response for the Biden administration.
I think the safest way to do that is what, for instance, Spain is doing. Spain is putting all of the people who came off the ship on a 6-week quarantine.
His reasoning? This disease is still relatively unstudied.
At least a few people contracted it without that sort of prolonged close exposure that we've always assumed.
As of now, the American passengers, if not showing any symptoms, will be allowed to go home and monitor their symptoms themselves.
What do you say to people who might have concern about that reality?
Well, they're not going back to their normal lives. They're still going to be tracked for 42 days.
Jody Guest is an epidemiologist at Emory University and not connected to the care of the cruise passengers there.
The state and local health departments will do the monitoring. There's certainly going to be this continual contact tracing and surveillance of the symptoms.
Officials insist the public is safe, but admit there are no absolute certainties.
There are no guarantees in life. We're putting as many measures in place as possible to ensure that people are safe and healthy.
Now, federal health officials have started coordinating already with state and local health departments for what happens next when these people who are asymptomatic do return to their home states. Some of the plans do vary, but we know at the very least states are preparing to monitor these passengers when they return home, making sure they're doing daily checks for symptoms in some cases, and making sure that people isolate if they do start to display symptoms of hantavirus. Back to you.
All right. Aaron, thank you. President Trump set to leave later today for a high-stakes summit in Beijing with Chinese President Xi Jinping.
It will be President Trump's second state visit to China as commander-in-chief and the first of this term. The two leaders are expected to discuss the ongoing war with Iran as well as the future of Taiwan. President Trump discussed his relationship yesterday with the Chinese leader ahead of this visit.
You know, I've gotten along well, other than with COVID. I was just not accepting of what happened with COVID. But other than that, he and I have had, he's a great gentleman. I find him to be an amazing man. He loves his country, I can tell you that, President Xi. I look forward to being there. And if he felt anything, we wouldn't be doing it.
NBC News international correspondent Janice Mackey-Frayer joins us now from Beijing with a preview. Janice, good morning. Of course, they'll discuss the war with Iran. After all, China is the world's largest buyer of Iranian oil, and President Trump had previously suggested the war would end before his visit to China. Clearly, that's not the case, so walk us through what we can expect during this visit.
Well, Joe, in that sense, the summit now looks much more like crisis management than a diplomatic breakthrough. Remember, it was postponed because of the Iran war, and it's proceeding now, even though the war remains unresolved. President Trump will be looking to leverage China's influence as the world's largest buyer of Iranian oil and a major economic player across the Gulf. Beijing does have leverage with Tehran, but so far it's taken a largely hands-off approach when it comes to the war. For Xi Jinping, his core priority in this is stability. He wants to prevent a wider conflict that could disrupt energy supplies and shipping routes. Behind closed doors, the talks are likely to focus on oil markets, sanctions, and whether China is willing to quietly pressure Iran to avoid escalation. But Xi is also going to be careful to not appear too aligned with Washington. Politically, both leaders want to project strength. So even without a major agreement on this, the symbolism and the tone of this meeting will matter.
Janice, the United States and China were locked in this tug of war when it came to trade and tariffs back when President Trump began his second term last year, and then they reached that truce when they met last October. Do you think we could potentially see some sort of longer-term deal on the table during this visit?
Well, both sides want stability, but a true long-term deal is still unlikely because the relationship now is no longer just about tariffs. The rivalry touches on technology, national security, supply chains, Taiwan. A more realistic outcome may not be some sweeping grand bargain, but an effort at least to manage the tensions and to avoid escalation. Things like extending these tariff pauses, increasing trade, reopening certain communication channels. Ultimately, both sides are looking for a more predictable relationship. Savannah, it's also worth noting that Chinese officials went to South Korea in the last couple of days to meet with U.S. commerce officials who are visiting there. And that's a sign that the two sides are maybe still trying to finalize some deliverables for Presidents Trump and Xi to agree on. Savannah?
Janice, an interesting angle here. There are a lot of CEOs of major companies who are expected to travel with the U.S. delegation to China. Tell us who is set to take part in the trip and just what we can expect with that.
Well, it's a very high-powered business delegation that's being unveiled. People like Elon Musk, Tim Cook, executives from Boeing, BlackRock, Meta, Qualcomm. There's some major Wall Street firms. The message seems to be that even with geopolitical rivalry, business ties between the U.S. and China are still extensive and important. And what's interesting with this delegation is that it's going to be less about deal making and more about access and influence. A lot of these companies are trying to protect their supply chains, expand here in China, or get regulatory approvals. These are all things that have been related to or delayed by trade tensions. Joe and Savannah.
All right, Janice, thank you so much.
For more on this state visit, let's bring in Mark Stewart. He's a journalist who recently wrapped up a 2-year assignment covering China based in Beijing. Mark, good morning. Thank you very much for being with us. So the ongoing war in Iran, of course, expected to be a main focal point here of this trip. His relationship with the Chinese president has been rocky at times, but it's remained civil. We just played him speaking about Xi Jinping. What will you be looking for as this state visit gets underway soon?
Well, I remember I was in Beijing when whispers of this meeting first surfaced, and the feeling was in order for it to take place, there would have to be some kind of announcement. And I think the fact that, as Janice mentioned, all of these CEOs are coming with President Trump to China does signal that we will see some kind of economic announcements. That could mean more commercial aircraft purchases. It could mean perhaps more purchase of U.S. agriculture products like soybeans. So I think there's going to be some room for a little bit of muted celebration, for lack of better words. I think there's also some room for some very tense moments. I think we're going to see China really press the United States to take a hands-off approach when it comes to Taiwan and Chinese sovereignty. This is happening at a very critical time for China. It's really trying to portray itself as almost the leader of a new world order, this alternative to the West. We have seen in recent months, not just this U.S. presidential visit, but we have seen the Prime Minister of India, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. I was in China when there was the big military parade, when Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un from North Korea was all in Tiananmen Square. These are all very symbolic moves for China to show the world that it's a big force. And with the arrival of President Trump, it only adds to that narrative, Joe and Savannah.
Mark, I want to ask you more about Taiwan, which you mentioned in the future of Taiwan. We know just last week, China's top diplomat was speaking with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, saying he hopes the U.S. would make, quote, the right choices when it comes to the self-ruled nation. What is the message China wants to send to the U.S. about Taiwan during this week's meetings?
The message that China wants to send to the U.S. is for the U.S. to really mind its own business. China feels that Taiwan is its own territory. It's part of this idea of one China, that China is going to dictate what happens beyond the mainland to Taiwan. Perhaps we will see China really press the U.S. to say it's going to end arms sales, which has been a tradition for many years. Perhaps we'll see China push the U.S. to stop allowing Taiwanese diplomats to pass through the United States. There has been some conversation that perhaps China would even pressure the United States by offering incentives, perhaps economic or business incentives, if it takes a firm stance toward this Taiwan question. I should point out that this Taiwan issue is often referred to as a red line issue. China is not going to budge, and it's putting a big burden on the United States.
Mark, what do we think the state of U.S.-China relations and the state of the relationship between Trump and Xi Jinping is from Beijing's perspective?
Well, I think that it thinks that it's frosty. I remember I was talking to the former U.S. ambassador just a few months ago, and he was talking about how the fact that this is an adversarial relationship. Yes, it is true that Xi Jinping and President Trump have had some good moments together. They shared chocolate cake together at Mar-a-Lago back in 2017. But this relationship can change very quickly. Once there were concerns about how China was handling COVID, once there were concerns about how China was handling some of these trade issues in the first Trump presidency, we saw things get very tense. So I think that Beijing is going to take a very guarded approach. It's interesting. I was looking at some of the reporting from Chinese state media, which is very much the government's messenger service. A lot of talk about a win-win situation, about diplomatic cooperation. That's the narrative that Beijing wants to portray publicly, but I think it's also very aware that things can shift very quickly.
All right, Mark Stewart, thank you so much for joining us and lending us your expertise. And a programming note here, Nightly News and top story anchor Tom Yamas is in Beijing for this high-stakes summit. He'll be bringing us coverage all week.
Hopes for a peace deal between the U.S. and Iran appear to be diminishing. President Trump said on Monday that the ceasefire was on life support and called Iran's counterproposal, quote, garbage. The standoff over an agreement to end the war and reopen the critical Strait of Hormuz is pushing oil prices up again today. And with gas prices elevated at the pumps, the president is considering pausing the federal gas tax. NBC News chief Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles has the latest.
President Trump looking to reduce the pain at the pump by suspending the federal gas tax.
Mr. President, are you going to suspend the federal gas tax?
Yeah, I'm going to reduce until let me tell you, as soon as this is over with Iran, as soon as it's over, you're going to see gasoline and oil drop like a rock.
That move would require an act of Congress and would reduce prices by about 18 cents a gallon. All as President Trump is warning the fragile ceasefire with Iran is on the verge of collapse.
I would say it's one of the weakest right now. It's on life support.
Slamming Iran's latest response, which would delay any negotiations over its nuclear program as, quote, garbage.
Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, and they won't have a nuclear weapon, and they didn't want to go that far. They think that, well, I'll get tired of this, or I'll get bored, or I'll have some pressure, but there's no pressure. There's no pressure at all. We're going to have a complete victory.
And on Iran's stockpile of enriched uranium?
We talked about it, and they said, you'll have to take it out because we don't have the capability of doing it.
So, sir, are you saying that the Iranians have agreed to allow the removal of all their enriched uranium?
Yeah.
And
well, they did it 2 days ago. They didn't, okay? They did 2 days ago. They said, you're going to have to take it. We were going to go with them, but they changed their mind because they didn't put it in the paper.
Experts say even 1 month without the gas tax would cost the Highway Transportation Fund, which pays for improvements to roads and highways across the country, $3.5 billion.
All right, Ryan, thank you.
Well, President Trump voicing support for suspending the federal gas tax. Momentum is now starting to build among Republicans in Congress.
Just yesterday, GOP Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri introduced a bill that would pause the tax. As we mentioned, that would save drivers about 18 cents a gallon. That pause would last for 90 days, and the president could extend the suspension for 90 more days if he felt it was necessary.
NBC News senior national political reporter Sahil Kapoor joins us now with more on this. Sahil, good morning. So this legislation needs to pick up at least 7 Democratic votes in order to overcome a filibuster in the Senate. I mean, what's the appetite like here for pausing this federal gas tax?
Well, Savannah, I'd say this is very much a live ball at this time. 2 things are certainly true. The first is President Trump will need Congress to get this done. Taxing power is firmly in the hands of Congress, and he'll face a world of legal trouble if he tries to go around them and do this on his own. The second thing is this will take a real negotiation with Democrats at minimum of the sort that Trump is typically reluctant to engage in, some real compromises to get Democrats on board. Remember, it was just a few years ago that President Biden proposed suspending the gas tax, and he got a firm no from Republicans, and he got a chilly reception from Democrats. Some of the Democrats who do support suspending a gas tax, including Brendan Boyle, the top Democrat on the House Budget Committee, say he's still in favor of it, but that if Trump is serious, he'll have to end the war in Iran. And he's proposing a bill that would offset the revenue by ending taxpayer subsidies and funding for big oil and gas companies. And just a few years ago, again, it was Senate Majority Leader John Thune, today the Majority Leader, I should say, who called it a gimmick, called it a Band-Aid, called it dead on arrival. Now, you would expect many Republicans to flip and be supportive now that Donald Trump wants it to happen, but it's not going to be automatic. It's not going to be unanimous. So the first question is, can he even get enough Republicans?
Sahil, let's turn now and talk about the battle over redistricting in Virginia. That's now going to head to the U.S. Supreme Court. We know Virginia Democrats are asking the justices to essentially overturn Friday's state Supreme Court decision, which blocked that new voter-approved congressional map from taking effect. It would have given Democrats a chance to net up to 4 new seats in the House. Now, the Supreme Court doesn't have jurisdiction over how states run their elections. So talk about why Virginia Democrats are taking this to the justices and what they're arguing.
I think it's fair to see this as a last-ditch option by Virginia Democrats. They want to exhaust every legal avenue before they let this go. They're essentially asking the Supreme Court to put on hold that Virginia Supreme Court ruling 4-3 through the midterm election so they can use this House map in 2026. There are 2 seats that Democrats would be all but guaranteed to pick up, and there are another 2 that they might pick up anyway because they're competitive, but they would still move in the direction. So there's a lot at stake here. The argument that Democrats are making is that the Virginia Supreme Court ruling runs afoul of federal law regarding how elections are defined and that it usurps the authority of the state legislature. They also argue that the Virginia Supreme Court overrode the will of the people who had it in front of them in a referendum and voted to approve the map, guys.
Sahil, before we let you go, Republicans are hoping to send their budget reconciliation package to the Senate floor next week. They want to focus on the tens of billions in new funding for immigration enforcement that is included. But something else is getting attention, this addition of $1 billion in taxpayer funds that would go towards security upgrades for that new White House ballroom we've heard quite a bit about. How big of a problem is that for Republicans?
It's a significant problem because this is the issue that Democrats have decided to lean in on heavily. They are planning to message this as ballroom Republicans trying to make the working class pay a price for what they call a vanity project by President Trump. The ballroom, remember, didn't even poll well before the issue of taxpayer money was introduced to pay for it. President Trump had said for many months that it would be done entirely by private funding. A Washington Post survey found 2-to-1 opposition to it. What Democrats are going to do is offer amendments to strip out the money and try to use it to put vulnerable Senate Republicans in a precarious position, having to vote with Trump if they choose to, or potentially jeopardize the entire bill. Take a listen to what some senators had to say.
Donald Trump promises it will never cost the taxpayers a single penny, and the Republicans just slip it in to a bill that's all about ICE funding. I don't know if they thought we wouldn't notice, or that they are just that cynical and think the American people won't notice.
The president was raising the money for the ballroom, and now there's security aspects to it. You know, then you had the attempted, or the shooting, actual shooting, at the White House dinner, and I think that just raised the concern that there does need to be more security.
So first off, there has been an attempt to conflate the White House Correspondents' Dinner shooting with the ballroom. I'll note that the Correspondents' Dinner is a private event hosted by journalists. It's not a White House event. And even if the ballroom existed, it's highly unlikely to take place at the White House to begin with. Now, finally, guys, this is a $70 billion package that funds ICE and Border Patrol. Republicans see it as a must-pass bill. Can they hold together enough of their members to vote down these Democratic amendments around the ballroom? This is becoming a bit of a tricky issue here.
All right. Sahil, thank you so much.
Overseas in the UK, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer insists he's staying on the job as pressure grows for him to quit.
More than 70 lawmakers from Starmer's ruling Labour Party have publicly called for him to step down, as well as at least one member of his government. It comes after last week's local elections that were disastrous for his party, losing more than 1,000 local council seats. Well, a few hours ago, as Starmer met with his cabinet, Downing Street released a statement saying he would not be stepping down.
Back here in the U.S., more than 30 million people are waking up to, frost and freeze alerts.
Angie Lassman back in time just to give us that lovely news. Hey.
Cue the booze. I guess, guys. Here's the deal. We do have kind of a setup that's leaving us cooler than normal for a good chunk of the country. Basically, east of the Rockies, we're stuck in this unseasonably cool pattern for the start of May. West of the Rockies, a very different story. We've got this intense heat that is continuing to build, and we're really going to kind of keep this strong ridge of high pressure centered over that region. So that means the sunny, the hot, the dry conditions are all going to be in the picture for at least a little while longer. That also means that this area of low pressure, this Canadian low, is going to sit just to the north of us and leave us with, again, this same kind of trend here for the extended period. So here's what that means in terms of actual temperatures and records. We've got a whole slew of records that are potentially going to be broken by the time we get to the end of our work week. You can see Salt Lake City, Las Vegas, Albuquerque, Wichita, Kansas City, all included in those here as we get through at least the next couple of days. And here's why. We've got temperatures into the triple digits for Las Vegas, 104 on today, 106 for Phoenix today. We've got the high 90s from Amarillo to El Paso, even the 90s on top in Denver tomorrow. We're really going to see this heat and dry conditions kind of leave us with the potential for high fire danger. This is not what you want to see this time of year, but something we're going to have to watch for either way. We look to the east, and that's where the chilly weather is going to hang on. It'll be kind of a cool and rainy pattern, at least through the next couple of days. You see some 60s out there, some 50s for Buffalo, still hanging on to the 70s today in Pittsburgh, but ending up into those mid-50s by Thursday. And we've got this kind of better setup that's going to happen here as we get late into the week and into this weekend. So it's not all bad news if you're looking for some warm weather for the east. We've got the chilly storm system that kind of works off to the east, guys, as we get through your Friday, and then we'll see warmer conditions building. That leaves us with a much better kind of pattern setup for the weekend, that spring weather that everybody is looking for across the east, not just the west. And hopefully we'll get a break for our friends out west as well.
Cool. The booze go away now.
Yes, exactly. What a concept. The nice weather lines up with the weekend.
Yeah, I know.
I deliver sometimes. Thanks, Angie. Of course. Much more to come here on Morning News Now. Later this hour, dietary debate. The Trump administration billing its new guidelines as affordable at just $15 a day. But is that really the cost? We're going to check the receipts to see if it fits the budget.
Up first after the break, panic in the streets after a gunman opens fire on several cars near Harvard University. What we know about the suspect now under arrest. Stay with us.
We're back with a suspected gunman in custody this morning after police say he shot at cars on a major street in Cambridge, Massachusetts yesterday. The terrifying moments when he appeared to begin firing shots at random were caught on camera. Now investigators are trying to determine a possible motive. NBC News correspondent Sam Brock has the latest.
Chaos on the streets of Cambridge.
We're getting reports of gunshots fired.
With this chilling scene unfolding in the college town, a man appearing to carry a long gun and walking right down a major street, firing his weapon, according to eyewitnesses.
We heard some gunshots. Cars started turning around. They got jammed up on the sidewalk trying to turn around. People started running.
He started shooting those cars. At least 2-3 shots.
A bullet hole visibly shattered a postal truck windshield with cars up against trees. One man telling NBC Boston he and his coworker heard around 20 shots as they left their construction project.
I looked up and the dude had his rifle pointed at us. And so I turned and ran back to my car, jumped down behind my dashboard. My buddy got out of his and went running with the crowd.
The horror shaking up this witness, Brandon, and his wife. Just grateful that he's alive.
Sorry, it's hitting me right now.
The Harvard Police Department saying it received a call in the afternoon from Cambridge police that a person armed with a gun fired shots, possibly injuring 2 victims. The suspect is in custody. There is no ongoing threat to the campus. Massachusetts State Police said no information is immediately available about the shooting. As the day's events still sinking in, a possible mass casualty situation avoided.
This much danger doesn't happen in Cambridge.
Sam Brock, NBC News.
An American fugitive who's wanted for murder is on the run in Europe and is now seeking asylum in Italy. Lee Gilly is accused of killing his pregnant wife in their Houston home back in 2024. He's now claiming he was wrongly accused of capital murder back in Texas, where he could face the death penalty if convicted. NBC News correspondent Priscilla Thompson has the latest.
An American fugitive on the run inside an Italian courtroom professing his innocence. "My wife is dead," Lee Gilly told the judge, "and they wrongly blamed me." Gilly fled the U.S. on May 1st, according to a criminal complaint in U.S. District Court, cutting off his court-ordered ankle monitor just before he was set to stand trial for strangling his pregnant wife Krista to death in 2024. The criminal complaint stating Gilly landed in Milan on May 3rd, where he presented a fake Belgian passport. He was then taken into immigration custody, according to the filing, where he admitted who he was, and American authorities were alerted. At his hearing in Milan, Gilly did not consent to an extradition, telling the judge he would like to remain in Italy because of the lifestyle, the culture, the international protection, and to receive a fair trial. In Texas, Gilly could face the death penalty if convicted. "I fled to avoid being killed," he said. "I went to great lengths to escape and seek protection in Italy."
Negli Stati Uniti, oggetto di una campagna mediatica.
His attorney in Italy telling NBC News he has been subject to a media campaign that would not have allowed him to obtain a truly fair trial. His wife, Krista Gilly, was found unresponsive in the couple's Houston home in October 2024, according to officials, after police received a call about a suicide. But her death was ruled a homicide due to compression of the neck. Within days, Gilly was arrested, charged with capital murder. A car was seen being towed from his home last week after his escape. The Harris County District Attorney's Office telling People magazine they are working with the U.S. and Italian authorities and remain committed to pursuing justice. Gilly's attorney in the murder trial told People magazine he was unaware his client had left the country and told a local ABC affiliate he was concerned the move could be seen as a consciousness of guilt. Gilly's U.S. attorney and the Harris County DA's office did not return NBC News' request for comment. A gag order is now in place. All of it adding to the unbearable heartbreak felt by those who loved Krista, including her childhood friend, Kara Kelly.
It's not fair, and it's infuriating and frustrating, and it feels like we've been let down by the system.
Priscilla Thompson, NBC News.
Coming up, controversy at the supermarket over AI-powered pricing that could have you paying more for your groceries. A look at the practice and the growing pushback.
Plus, give kids a break. Why researchers say recess may be one of the most important parts of a child's school schedule. Your weekly check-in is next on Morning News Now. We are back with a look at what those new dietary guidelines would cost you if you really tried to follow them. You might remember they were released earlier this year by the Trump administration.
And the Trump administration says it costs about $15 per person per day to follow the so-called MAHA diet. But an NBC News analysis found that while that number may be technically accurate, sticking to that budget could be a real challenge for many American families.
NBC News health and medical reporter Aria Bendix joins us with more on this. Aria, good morning. So you recently broke down a full day of meals, what that looks like on $15 a day on this budget. And we're going to get to that in a second. But first, just remind us what these guidelines are.
Right. So it still includes the familiar recommendations, eat your fruits and veggies, but the real focus here is on cutting back on ultra-processed foods. There's also an emphasis on full-fat dairy and getting protein with every meal. And if you look at the new dietary pyramid, which is sort of flipped on its head, you'll see things like a steak, a fillet of salmon, a roasted chicken at the very top. So this emphasis on animal protein as well as healthy fats things like avocado, peanut butter, olive oil.
So walk us through the sample menu that you analyzed. What does $15 a day actually get you?
Right. So this was a menu presented at an HHS event celebrating the new dietary guidelines. We analyzed all the ingredients, starting with breakfast, which was about 2 eggs and a piece of toast. Lunch was a slow roasted chicken thigh with a quinoa and vegetable salad. For snack, an apple and nut butter. For dinner, you have this chuck roast with baby potatoes and caramelized onions, and then a homemade banana ice cream. Sounds good. I'm not doing that every day.
You're not making your homemade banana ice cream?
I am not. No, unfortunately, I wish I could. But we did find that at least those ingredients for one person did total $15. But that doesn't include things like seasoning, olive oil, even your morning cup of coffee, which most Americans have every day.
So bottom line, is this realistic for Americans to do at that price?
It requires a degree of sacrifice from American families. We're assuming that people are cooking all of this from scratch at home every day.
Right.
They're going to the grocery store, doing maybe bulk shopping, meal prepping, a little bit of bargain hunting even to make sure that they're getting the best price. And many American families just simply can't do that. They have full-time jobs, part-time jobs, caretaking responsibilities. At the end of the day, time is money.
But beyond the cost, you spoke with experts. Just what do they say about the Maha diet? How much should you be digging into these items?
Yeah, so there are elements of this diet that experts actually welcome, specifically the reduction of ultra-processed foods. But then they have some concerns with particularly whole grains being at the very bottom, worrying about people not getting enough fiber in their diet. And then saturated fats is another concern. Too much saturated fats with all the butter and dairy and meat that's
a lot of nut butter in there.
Yeah, I might scale back on that one.
Yeah. For families who do want to try to eat healthier, I think a lot of us have that goal. What are some realistic ways to get going on that and try to stay within a budget?
I would say start small. You don't have to completely overhaul your diet overnight. Maybe if you drink sugary sodas, you're cutting back on those, reducing fried food. And then spoilage is something that families really worry about if they're buying whole fruits and veggies. So frozen options are great, and they still have some good nutritional value.
All right, Aria Bendix, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Important stuff.
Time now for our weekly mental health check-in. This week we're talking about how recess can actually help kids become better learners.
Also, rage workouts are trending. We're going to tell you what they are, and we'll let you know if they can really help manage stress and give you a good sweat.
For more, let's bring in Dr. George James, licensed therapist and the author of I Give Myself Permission, who joins us now to make sense of it all. Dr. James, good to have you with us. We actually want to start with a story about antidepressants while we're talking about the health secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Last week, he announced action to try and reduce prescribing. One of the most popular types of antidepressants, these are called SSRIs. He's arguing the drugs are hard to quit, should not be the default treatment. How do you feel about that? What's your advice to someone who's using these antidepressants?
Hey, good morning, Joe. I think overall it's an important conversation to look at mental health medications. Where we talk about SSRIs, we're talking about Prozac and Paxil and some of these medications where 1 in 6 individuals are taking it. So we do maybe need to look at like how they're being prescribed, but we also need to recognize if it's 1 in 6, there's a lot of folks who need support. And there's lots of ways between medication, mental health therapy, as well as maybe exercise that can help folks who are dealing with depression. So we need to look at the whole thing to make sure that we're supporting people, but not also giving them too much medication if they don't need it.
All right, good advice there. Okay, now the American Association of Pediatrics is out with new guidance. It's showing how important recess is for students, and I thought this was interesting, even up to high school.
Did you have recess in high school?
I know, I guess it was like a break.
So.
Like maybe, I don't think we called it recess, but you could like be on the quad or something, not a playground.
Just a smoking break for kids in my high school. But
Dr. James, why is this important? Like, how can it help then your time back in the classroom?
Yeah, Savannah, I'm ready for recess right now. And part of this, part of this is saying that it is important to have breaks. What breaks do for young folks from early ages all the way through high school is that it allows them to reset, to focus, and also to manage their stress and anxiety. That break from teaching, that break from organized thought actually helps folks to be better, to be more equipped, to be better for the day and for their learning. So it actually is good. And as you get older, it moves from play to actually social interaction. So we all need some breaks and recess, and I might need to take some recess today. Maybe all of us should do that.
Well, let's weave some recess into our work days as well. I grew up in a small town, so our playground was just giant tires stacked up on top of each other. The most unsanitary thing you've ever heard of in your life, by the way.
It probably made you get creative.
It made you get very creative. You're crawling through them. And anyways, so even with the tires, it was good. All right. Finally, let's ask you about this new trend of rage workouts. These are workouts where people just release their anger. They punch a bag. They slam those battle ropes. Talk about how getting angry gives us a mood boost.
Yeah, there's something about like letting it all out, right? And that sometimes we get to these places where we're so frustrated, so upset, maybe something happened to you early in the day, and that you can use that rage in this workout. And sometimes for others, the rage actually maybe motivates you and pushes you to do the workout. Now, there is some research that the actual rage of it all doesn't get you to feeling better, but in the moment, you do feel really great and you feel like you let something out. So do it in controlled ways, maybe in these workouts or some places where you can go and pay for it. And it could feel good in the moment, but also find other ways, maybe meditation, maybe a walk to help you with other parts of your anger.
Maybe focus on the angry part and reducing how often you're angry.
There's that too. I like how I saw
if
the
you're in a
tire
workout every day, maybe that's not good.
Yeah, exactly. I saw the tire from my playground in one of those photos there. So maybe that's what we were supposed to do, was a rage workout when we were in recess.
It's an interesting concept because I imagine when you're mad, you almost feel like you have that like superhuman strength. But I mean, how often are you that angry that you're like, let's head to the gym now?
If every day you're doing it, there's something else going on. Dr. George James, good to have you with us. Thanks as always.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Coming up on Morning News Now, sticker shock powered by AI.
When we return, a look at how the technology could be costing you more at the grocery store, what one state is doing to try and fight back. Stay with us. Welcome back. Imagine paying more for groceries than the next customer just because the store knows you live in a wealthier neighborhood. Could be happening because of a new retail trend of using AI to drive what's called surveillance pricing. Well, now Maryland has become the first state to ban grocery stores from using customer data and AI to help raise prices. Other states could soon follow. For more on what all this means for consumers, we're joined now by Tom McBrien, counsel at the Electronic Privacy Information Center. Tom, thanks for joining us this morning to walk us through this. First of all, just explain how this works and how it could lead to different people paying different prices for the same thing.
Hey, good morning. Thanks so much for having me. So surveillance pricing, we're talking about a practice in which the price of each of us pays, it's not supply and demand. We're getting outside of Econ 101 here. Instead, it's set by an algorithm using our personal data. This can be really individualized, such as algorithms that calculate each person's maximum price point for something and setting the price there. Or they can be a little bit more group-based, such as algorithms that set a higher price if you're using a Mac or if you live in a zip code where there aren't many competitors to shop from.
So let's look at this. Go ahead, continue.
I was just going to say that the really worrisome examples are when people end up paying more because of protected characteristics like race and gender. But even less dramatic examples, I think, are still really important. Do you want to pay more than your neighbor just because a company knows it can charge you more without losing your business? That's what, we're concerned about here, and I think what led Maryland to act.
So let's talk about Maryland here. So the bill passed. It was signed by the governor, goes into effect in October. How is this going to help restrict the practice? Do you expect to see other states follow? I know more than 30 have looked into this in some form or fashion.
Yeah, so like you said, Maryland's law prohibits the use of surveillance pricing in grocery stores and food delivery apps. It's great to see them tackle the affordability crisis, especially in something as important as grocery. And they're a first mover in banning surveillance pricing, which is really good to see. Unfortunately, the law does have some major loopholes based around how it defines surveillance pricing, how certain exceptions got added, and how it handles enforcement. So there's definitely room for improvement. But we are seeing a huge move to regulate this practice across the country. Many other states are currently considering bills, such as Colorado, New York, California, and many others. So it's likely we'll see different states try out some different approaches.
There's also criticism of the bill. We know that the Maryland Retailers Alliance insisted it was inaccurate to say that two individuals could be charged different prices for the same item based on their personal data. The group also says the notion that widespread price gouging could occur is inconsistent with just the economic realities of the industry. What's your response to that? Are there even substantiated complaints this has been happening?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's just not true. The Federal Trade Commission issued a study last year where they have investigatory powers. So when they ask a company something, it has to respond correctly. And they asked 7 different companies that offer algorithmic pricing services to disclose if they had customers that were doing surveillance pricing. And they described 250 different clients across industries: grocery, beauty, hardware, a bunch of industries. And we have a lot of demonstrated examples where people have discussed this practice happening.
We just have a few seconds left here, but just big picture, what should people know about how their shopping data is being used? What are some of the best ways to try and protect your privacy?
Restricting your app permissions is really important. Loyalty apps on your phone are a really big driver of data collection. And I would say just reaching out to your reps. Unfortunately, shoppers don't have a ton of agency here. It's hard to know when this practice is happening. So reaching out to your reps and telling them you don't like it is a good way to kind of continue this momentum of regulation.
All right, Tom McBrien, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Let's stay on Money News for you now. GM is looking to hire some new workers with a stronger focus on AI.
NBC News business and economy reporter Emily Lorsch is here with your Money Minute. Emily, good morning.
Hey guys, good morning. GM has confirmed to NBC News it's laying off several hundred employees, with the cuts expected to hit the automaker's IT division. GM saying the changes are being made to, quote, better position the company for the future. This comes as GM continues to hire within the IT department, seeking out specific skills. The company's website includes listings for open roles that require AI knowledge and experience. And it looks like digital media company BuzzFeed is getting a new owner and leader. According to the company, billionaire comedian and entrepreneur Byron Allen is taking control in a more than $100 million deal and is set to replace its founder, Jonah Peretti, as chief executive. Most recently, Allen's name has been causing some buzz in late night with his talk show Comics Unleashed, set to replace CBS's The Late Show with Stephen Colbert starting on the 22nd. As for BuzzFeed's announcement, the agreement is expected to close by the end of the month. And is it summer already? Well, at Starbucks it is, because the coffee giant's summer menu is now available. Starbucks is rolling out a colorful new drink, the Tropical Butterfly Refresher, that features fruity flavors, including guava and passion fruit. Horchata is also returning, the fan favorite, the iced horchata shaken espresso, and also a new horchata frappuccino. Guys, you know me by now, so you know if I'm talking about drinks, I'm gonna bring some for you guys to try. So this is the refresher.
Do you want that one?
This has coconut milk in it. This is the horchata frappuccino, if we want to try this. And this is the horchata espresso. So, and another thing that Starbucks is now rolling out is people can order in advance. They can schedule their orders, so up to an hour in advance on the app.
Got it.
So
all right.
How's yours?
Colorful,
fun flavors.
Sweet. It's summer. It's summer in a cup.
Thank you for giving me the word, guys.
That's the one we want right now because we need coffee.
That is not a cup of milk. What is that? Frappuccino.
It's a frappuccino. There you go. Dive in. Right. Thanks, I appreciate it.
Drink these right up in the break. Thanks. Good morning. Thanks for starting your Tuesday with us. I'm Savannah Sellers.
I'm Joe Fryer. Right now on Morning News Now, Beijing bound, President Trump gearing up for a high-stakes trip to China where he'll come face-to-face with President Xi. Tariffs and trade expected to take center stage at Thursday's summit, along with China's exploding AI industry. The commander-in-chief could also be eyeing a possible off-ramp for America's war with Iran with a little help from China. More on that coming up. Also this morning, those 18 Americans aboard that hantavirus hit cruise ship back on U.S. soil. But new questions are emerging over just how long they're going to have to quarantine. We're going to hear from one of those passengers in a moment as global health officials race to contain the potential spread. Plus, a fresh snapshot of America's ongoing fight against inflation out this morning. We're going to break down the big numbers. How is all the turmoil in the Middle East impacting wallets right here at home, beyond the agony at the pump? And later in the hour, the leading lads of late night reuniting at the Ed Sullivan Theater. Their hilarious and sentimental send-off as Stephen Colbert prepares his audience for one final About a week and a half to go. A week from Thursday will be his final show.
Something to see for sure.
No kidding. Let's begin this hour with a high-stakes summit for President Trump, who's set to travel to Beijing later today.
It will be the president's second state visit to China and first of this term, and it will include a meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping. There will be plenty for the two leaders to discuss, including, of course, the ongoing war in Iran and then the future of Taiwan and trade. A welcome ceremony will be held once President Trump lands in China. NBC News Chief White House correspondent Garrett Haake is traveling with the president. He joins us now from Beijing with a preview. Garrett, good morning.
Hey, Savannah, good morning. Look, the relationship between the U.S. and China is often called the most important bilateral relationship in the world, tying together the two biggest economies on the planet, despite all of our differences. Now that relationship will be renewed and potentially tested by this summit this week that's set to discuss everything from soybean sales to the future of AI.
President Trump bound for Beijing today ahead of Thursday's high-stakes summit with China's President Xi Jinping. Nearly a decade after his last visit to China, the president asked what he hopes to get out of the talks.
A lot. Look, I have a great relationship with President Xi. We're doing a lot of business, but it's smart business.
While the leaders are expected to publicly emphasize stability, the two superpowers have been locked in an escalating economic struggle, with flashpoints including trade, access to China's rare earth minerals, and AI. China pushing back on the president's steep tariffs last year before the two sides reached a trade truce. This week's summit, first scheduled for April, was postponed due to the conflict in Iran, which is a key Chinese ally and oil supplier. President Trump suggesting he'll lean on Xi to force Tehran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz and end the war.
They get a big percentage, 40% of their oil from Hormuz. There's been no ships coming in, no nasty ships coming in that we end up in skirmishes with. He'd like to see it get done.
Another likely flashpoint in the China talks, the future of Taiwan, the self-governing island backed by the U.S., which China claims as its own. The president is downplaying the possibility of a Chinese military invasion. Asked whether the U.S. should still be selling weapons to Taiwan after he authorized an $11 billion arms sale last year, the president punted.
Well, I'm going to have that discussion with President Xi. President Xi would like us not to, and I'll have that discussion.
Well, the Chinese Foreign Ministry last week described Taiwan as the very core of their core interests. For President Trump, the key issue here is the economy. He is bringing a big group of American CEOs, some of the most prominent countries in America represented here, everyone from Apple to Boeing to Elon Musk of Tesla and SpaceX, all companies that the U.S. would like to see China allowed to sell more of their products here in China. Joe and Savannah, Tesla, really the only American car I have seen being driven around the streets of Beijing since we got here.
All right, Garrett, traveling with the president for us. And Garrett, by the way, very fun to introduce you as Chief White House Correspondent, a new title that is so deserved for you. Congratulations.
Fun to hear it. Thank you.
More on the president's state visit to China. Let's bring in Jeremy Chan. He's a senior analyst for China and Northeast Asia at the Eurasia Group. Jeremy, good to have you with us. You've spent several years in Asia, including as a U.S. diplomat with tours in China and Japan. So just walk us through what's at stake here for the Trump administration.
Well, thanks for having me. And yes, there's a lot at stake. This is the first visit by an American president in 9 years. It will be the first proper summit between these two leaders following their sidebar conversation in South Korea in October. The stakes are very high on both sides, most importantly because we had a truce that was negotiated between these two leaders in October of last year. We're about 6 months into that truce, a little bit beyond that. And the question on everyone's mind is, will the two countries find a way to continue this détente and climb down a bit on sort of thorny issues like tariffs, export control, sanctions, the war in Iran, Taiwan, or not? And so we will have a very, a better sense of where this is all headed 36 hours hence from now. So the stakes couldn't be higher in the meantime.
Yeah, so we saw that escalation in tariffs from both sides as this was worked through last time. There was this sort of summit between President Trump and Xi Jinping in South Korea. Same thing is going to happen this time. What are you specifically looking for when it comes to trade between the two nations?
So I think we have On the positive side of the ledger, we have likely Chinese purchase commitments of things like soybeans, Boeing aircraft, potentially energy like LNG, in return for still sort of vague or unsaid U.S. commitments on the other end. But I think what we're really watching is where tariff rates might be headed. Following the Supreme Court ruling earlier this year, the IEEPA and the fentanyl tariffs against China essentially disappeared, but China didn't lower their rates at all. Beijing is more or less in a holding pattern since then to see where the longer-term U.S. tariff rate against China ends up at the end of the ongoing 301 investigation. I think the two leaders are going to be discussing that and signaling the direction ahead. I think both countries want to avoid a repeat of last year's sort of tariff escalation, where rates went above briefly 100%. In both directions.
Jeremy, several big name executives are going to be part of the U.S. delegation to Beijing. That includes Apple's Tim Cook, Tesla's Elon Musk. What should we make of who was invited and who wasn't? And what role do you expect these CEOs to play during the trip?
It's a very good question. So, what's interesting is that most folks expected there to be a CEO delegation. It's actually smaller in size. Roughly half the number of CEOs are traveling with him this time than traveled with him on his last state visit to China in 2017. There seems to be a back and forth within the U.S. government about the appropriate number of CEOs that are going along. It looks like some of the highest profile ones, or the ones with the closest access to him, ended up sort of securing their seats. I think what we can say is that a lot of this came together at the very end. A lot of the CEOs here weren't confirmed to be traveling with him until only a few days ago. And so I think it's unclear what exactly the deliverables are going to be, but you have to believe that a lot of those CEOs traveling alongside him are going to be pushing for greater market access for American products and services in China.
Jeremy Chan, good to have you with us. Thank you so much. And a programming note, Nightly News and top story anchor Tom Yamas is in Beijing for the U.S.-China summit. He will have live coverage on this high-stakes summit all week long.
Now let's get to our other big story this morning. Ongoing concerns over that hantavirus outbreak. 18 people who were evacuated from that cruise ship are now back home in the U.S. being monitored for the deadly virus. Well, the big question this morning is how long they will have to quarantine at these medical centers. NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa is at the Nebraska hospital where most of them are being cared for. She joins us with the latest. Hi, Maggie. Good morning.
Hey, Savannah, good morning. Yeah, to be exact, 16 of those passengers isolating here at the University of Nebraska Medical Center, including one who health officials describe as mildly positive. This as the global case count rises again. And as you point out, those questions loom about how long Americans exposed to the virus should have to quarantine here before going home. This morning, global health officials warning there are now 11 total cases of the deadly hantavirus, adding that number could go up as the virus can incubate for 42 days.
Given the long incubation period of the virus, it's possible we might see more cases in the coming weeks.
Here in the U.S., one couple is at Emory University Hospital in Atlanta after one of them started showing symptoms. Emory health officials say neither has tested positive. In Nebraska, one person whom health officials describe as mildly positive but asymptomatic is being held in a specialized biocontainment unit out of an abundance of caution. The 15 others remain at the University of Nebraska Medical Center.
We want to do this in the least restrictive way possible.
Officials say those who have not tested positive or exhibited symptoms will be kept in medical supervision for a few days. After that, they'll be allowed to self-isolate at home. Other countries, including Spain and France, say all patients exposed to the hantavirus will quarantine for the full incubation period. The director of the Nebraska Biocontainment Unit saying yesterday that the exposed patients have the option to stay for the full 42-day period.
And I would encourage that for several reasons. The main one being is that we have the capability of caring for patients.
Meanwhile, some passengers who left the ship earlier being monitored along with those who may have been in close contact with them in multiple states, while officials aim to reassure the public.
What you are seeing is that system work exactly as intended.
Now, more on those questions about the quarantine period. The CDC saying that if passengers decide to leave before the 42 days are up, number one, they'll be escorted home. And number two, they'll be asked to avoid crowded spaces, public spaces, and limit themselves to essential activities. And they'll also be asked if and when they do go out in public to wear masks. And again, health officials stress that option is only available to people who have neither tested positive nor shown symptoms.
Savannah. All right, Maggie, thank you so much.
And a little earlier, one of those American passengers currently quarantined in Nebraska spoke with our colleagues on the Today Show. Here's some of that conversation.
I think, like anyone, when you hear a virus that you may not know about, you Google it, and probably when you Google this virus, it's some very scary statistics. However, it is a virus that we do know about, and it took me some time over those coming days to do more research and learn more about it. But it was a scary time, and I had a lot of up and down emotions, but I spent most of my time in my cabin. I decided that what was best for myself is I was going to be staying in my cabin as much as possible. It was definitely a wave of emotions as we retrieved information, and I think it became more scary when we found out that Cape Verde authorities weren't allowing us to dock. So we didn't really, at that point, a lot of things were up in the air. And it wasn't really until we arrived in the Canary Islands and I was able to get off the ship that I felt a bit of relief. I feel good right now. I'm happy to be in a place where I know we are well cared for. And if anything happens, we have the medical attention that we need.
And our thanks to our friends at Today for bringing us that interview. Jake also says he plans to spend his time catching up with friends and family and using that exercise equipment in his room.
You could see those Pelotons that they all get. As we learn more about the hantavirus outbreak, though, there are these growing concerns here at home over what we do and do not know about this respiratory illness.
Yeah, a previous study published in the New England Journal of Medicine offers some insights into how another hantavirus outbreak was handled. For more, let's bring in NBC News senior national correspondent Stephanie Gosk, who has those details. Steph, good morning.
Hey guys, good morning. It was a cruise ship to a remote part of the world launching this deadly virus onto the global stage. Most people had never heard of hantavirus, but that's not true for people in Argentina, where the Andes strain has struck before. And one specific outbreak there in 2018 could be key to stopping the virus today.
This morning, health officials fighting to contain the deadly hantavirus and relying on limited understanding of how it is spread, according to infectious disease experts. 11 cases, but nearly 150 cruise ship passengers and crew potentially exposed, and they are headed back to countries around the world, leaving some rattled.
This thing with the hantavirus has me spiraling.
Do you just want us to not mass panic? Because just tell me the truth.
But this isn't the first outbreak of the Andes strain of the virus. The New England Journal of Medicine studied a 2018 outbreak, not on a cruise ship crossing oceans, but in a small Andean town in southwest Argentina. The first patient likely infected from a rodent, then at a birthday party spreading the virus to 5 more. One of them, described as very social, spread it to 6 people. Then he died. At his wake, another 10 were infected.
The spread seemed to happen pretty easily.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see that it was spread quite easily in the right setting.
In total, 34 confirmed cases and 11 deaths were recorded between November 2018 and February 2019, according to the journal. Infectious disease expert Dr. Abra Karan says the 2018 outbreak shows similarities to how COVID spread in large gatherings.
But this is one study, this is one well-documented instance. We have not seen tons of large outbreaks of Andes virus in Argentina.
The study determined enforced isolation and self-quarantine likely curtailed further spread. But the journal study, published in 2020, concluded more research needs to be done.
What would you say is the biggest question mark right now with this virus?
I think one big question mark is to what degree people can transmit before the symptoms actually start. When you say, well, you don't have symptoms, so you're not going to transmit to anyone else, that may not be the case.
Dr. Karan says this becomes a very important question when you start talking about how and where to quarantine people who are on that cruise ship. Those are the discussions taking place right now, guys, and they aren't easy conversations.
They're certainly not, and definitely one that we're all waiting for the answers to. Okay, based on the study also, Steph, tell us more about what we know about this particular strain of the virus and how it spreads, because that's the big question. We're seeing human to human.
So it's a particular outbreak, so it is limited in what we can extrapolate. But from this study, what is most notable is how easy the virus was transmitted between people. This was not prolonged contact, but rather casual contact. And we'll go to that person number 1 or patient number 1 who went to a birthday party, and he infected 5 people. But what's interesting about those infections is that 4 of the people were at the same table with him at the party. 1 person was not. And that they only passed each other casually in the room, which suggests that it was pretty easy to get the virus. And the study says that it was the aerosol particles in the air from sneezing and coughing, much like COVID, that spread it at those events.
Wow. All right, Steph Goss, really interesting stuff. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Oil prices are on the rise amid fading hopes for a peace deal between the U.S. and Iran that would also reopen the Strait of Hormuz. On Monday, President Trump said the ceasefire was on life support and called Iran's counterproposal, quote, garbage. Hoping to rein in high gas prices, the president is now considering suspending the federal gas tax. NBC News chief international correspondent Keir Simmons has the latest from Doha, Qatar. Keir, good morning.
Hey, good day to you. President Trump now describing Iran's counter-proposal as, quote, garbage, as the global economic implications of this U.S.-Iran standoff here in the Gulf become ever more stark.
This morning, the U.S. and Iran appear as far apart as ever, with President Trump warning the fragile ceasefire is hanging by a thread.
I would say the ceasefire is on massive life support, where the doctor walks in and says, sir, your loved one has approximately a 1% chance of living.
Amid escalating economic fallout from the stalemate, Iran's lead negotiator writing overnight, the longer the Trump administration drag their feet, the more American taxpayers will pay for it. While threatening Iran's armed forces are ready to deliver a well-deserved response to any aggression. The US and Iran playing chicken with the world economy. The vital shipping lane, the Strait of Hormuz, effectively closed. The world's biggest oil company, Aramco, now warning the damage will last until 2027. With prices soaring at the pump, President Trump saying he's considering suspending the federal gas tax. Asked how long that would last.
Till it's appropriate, yeah. It's a small percentage, but it's still money.
Meanwhile, Iran's counter-proposal includes releasing frozen funds to help its economy, state media says, which are worth billions. But Trump says Iran has backed away from nuclear guarantees.
They agree with us, and then they take it back.
And today, another chilling warning from Iran. An Iranian lawmaker saying that if Iran is attacked again, it would enrich uranium to weapons grade 90%. Both sides trying to warn each other not to risk war while determined to claim victory.
All right, Keir, thank you.
Well, an intense wildfire is burning through the Everglades outside Miami, so far scorching more than 11,000 acres and threatening nearby homes as crews work to contain the flames. NBC News correspondent Jesse Kirsch has more.
This wildfire exploding outside Miami, already burning more than 11,000 acres. Firefighters airdropping water over towering plumes of smoke that can be seen for miles.
This is the fire, and this is in the direction of my house.
The blaze fueled by dry grass in Florida's lush Everglades. The flames even visible from outer space. The brush fire broke out Sunday with the wind blowing mostly northwest away from population centers. So far, no injuries have been reported, but the wildfire has threatened some homes, including Roxanne Gills. She says the fire was blocking the road.
The only way to leave was to take an airboat.
Authorities urging residents near the smoke to stay indoors.
Even healthy individuals may experience eye irritation, coughing, sore throat.
All right, Jesse Kirsch, thanks for that report.
And the Florida Forest Service says the fire is now 50% contained, but residents are still urged to stay vigilant and keep an eye out for air quality alerts.
Let's get a check of your morning news now weather with meteorologist Angie Lastman.
Hey there, Angie. Good morning.
Hi, guys. Good morning. Let's start in Florida, which you were, of course, just talking about when it comes to fire issues. We do have some additional rain that's going to happen through the day today. This is going to help some folks with those Everglades fires. But right now, most of that action is centered across parts of the Panhandle and in parts of the Southeast, getting some of those showers as well this morning. Here's why. We've got this front. It's kind of just hanging around. This keeps that flood risk right along the I-95 corridor for Florida. Again, we'll see some of that wet weather farther to the south. That helps extinguish some of those fires. Welcomed relief for firefighters there. But we'll keep the rain in the forecast through the day today and pick up potentially up to an inch or two here closer to the coast. We'll see those highest isolated amounts upwards of maybe 3, even 4 inches by the time we get through tomorrow. Also unsettled across parts of the upper Midwest. You can see some of these showers and thunderstorms kind of sliding through Green Bay. Those are coming for you now. We'll see some shower activity across parts of Iowa and Minnesota through the next couple of hours, all thanks to this system that's going to drop in from Canada. It does leave some cooler air behind it, but notice most of that snow is farther to the north, up into Canada, and we'll see some gusty kind of storms potentially firing up anywhere from Kansas to Michigan here as the day goes on. And then all of that moisture slides into parts of the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic, and we'll even see some strong storms tomorrow, potentially from anywhere from Virginia to Pennsylvania. So still unsettled across that tier. And on top of that, we've got some chilly air in place for some folks. So 32 million people under these freeze and frost alerts right now. We've got the potential to see our temperatures running below normal later today, but we're starting off quite cool as well. We've got 40s for Scranton, 38 in Elkins. You can see Green Bay ending up at 41 degrees right now. And we're going to keep it cool here even as we get into the afternoon hours in that region. But look out west. That's where we have temperatures well into the triple digits for Las Vegas. We've got 101 for Tucson today, high 90s in Amarillo. Not so much for Atlantic City. It's just 64 degrees, the low 60s on tap for Detroit as well. And then we kind of keep a mixed bag out there depending on what side of the country you look to. The east side, that's where we're watching for the cooler than normal temperatures, at least for now. And then across the west, temperatures way above normal, potential records in place here for dozens of places as we get through at least the end of our work week. And then there's that welcome relief for folks across the east that are wondering when spring will be here permanently. We do see temperatures ending up into the upper 60s by Thursday and Friday in New York City. And then check it out, guys, 77 degrees on Saturday. We'll see some 80s farther to the south in places like Richmond and Charlotte as we get into Saturday plans as well.
So spring by Memorial Day.
Spring by Memorial Day, exactly.
That's our new motto.
The look that Savannah gives me when I say cooler than normal.
To be summer then.
You're right.
Thanks, Angie. Anyway, much more to come on this hour of Morning News Now, including some brand new inflation numbers that could offer up a clearer picture of how the ongoing war with Iran is impacting wallets here at home.
First, though, after the break, a major drug bust that's bringing together law enforcement from both America and China. Is it a sign of more cooperation to come in the run-up to President Trump's high-stakes trip to Beijing? We're going to dig deeper next.
We're back with newly released details from a rare joint operation between the U.S. and China. 3 Americans and 2 Chinese nationals were arrested in April as part of a coordinated drug smuggling investigation by the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration and the Narcotics Bureau of China's Ministry of Public Security.
This comes as President Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping prepare to meet later this week for that high-stakes summit in Beijing. Discussions around reducing the flow of drugs are expected to be high on the agenda. NBC News international correspondent Janice Mackey-Frayer has the details.
This is a major drug enforcement announcement coming just days before President Trump is set to meet with China's leader Xi Jinping here in Beijing later this week. U.S. and Chinese authorities say they jointly arrested 3 Americans and 2 Chinese nationals and dismantled a cross-border smuggling and trafficking network. This was a joint operation between the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Administration, along with the Narcotics Control Bureau of China's Ministry of Public Security. It spanned Florida, Nevada, and the Chinese provinces of Liaoning and Guangdong. Quantities of drugs were also seized, including nitazines. These are synthetic opioids said to be more potent than heroin and fentanyl. The operation, which happened last month, is a rare collaboration between the U.S. and China, despite rocky relations between the two countries over trade and other issues. Yu Haibin is one of China's top counter-narcotics officials. In an exclusive interview earlier this year, he said the two sides need to cooperate, not shift blame.
As major global powers, the joint action of China and the U.S. is a deterrent to global criminals, he says. If we do not join forces, criminals will be more than happy because criminals do cooperate. Of course, it may be affected at certain stages by the overall state of China-U.S. relations. Currently, the biggest obstacle is the 10% fentanyl tariff. We hope the U.S. removes this obstacle so we can devote ourselves wholeheartedly to global drug governance.
The U.S. has accused China of not doing enough to stop the flow of illicit fentanyl and precursor chemicals that are blamed for fueling the opioid crisis in the U.S. China denies it is to blame and says it's a domestic demand problem. Fentanyl is expected to be on the agenda when President Trump has his state visit with Xi from Wednesday till Friday, along with other issues from tariffs to technology to Taiwan, in a high-stakes summit that's aimed primarily at extending an uneasy calm in U.S.-China relations.
Janice, thank you. We've got new developments now out of the UK, where Prime Minister Keir Starmer says he's staying in office despite growing calls for him to step down.
NBC News international correspondent Claudia Lavanga joins us from Rome to take us around the world in 60 seconds. Hey, Claudia, good morning.
Savannah, Joe, good morning. Well, that's right. This morning, the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer resisted growing calls from within his own party to resign and pledged to stay on despite the recent disappointing election results. Now, Downing Street tells NBC News Starmer told Cabinet this morning he takes responsibility for the results, but also to deliver the changes he promised. He also said the Labour Party has a process to challenge a leader, which has not been triggered. Let's go now to the Philippines, where on Monday, Vice President Sara Duterte was impeached for a second time. Lawmakers voted in favor of charging her with misusing public funds and of threatening to assassinate President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. Duterte was first impeached last year after she claimed she arranged for an assassin to kill Marcos if she was murdered. But the proceeding was stopped by the Supreme Court, who declared it unconstitutional. Duterte's lawyers have called it a witch hunt. And let's end this tour of the world in Vienna, where the Eurovision Song Contest kicks off later today with the first semi-finals, despite the controversy over the participation of Israel. 5 countries, Spain, Ireland, the Netherlands, Slovenia, and Iceland, are boycotting the competition to protest Israel's inclusion, and several pro-Palestinian demonstrations are planned during the contest in the capital of Austria. Now, guys, the motto for this Eurovision Song Contest is United by Music, but just as it happened for the last couple of years, when it looks like that competing countries are divided by Israel's taking part in it. Guys?
All right, Claudio, thank you.
Coming up, a budding food crisis that some experts say could impact millions of Americans.
After the break, the fallout in one key swing state from the Trump administration's decision to slash SNAP benefits across the country. That's next on Morning News Now.
We're back now with a closer look at what's making news in the world of politics this morning, starting with the Supreme Court extending access to a popular abortion pill, while that pill's future still hangs in the balance.
NBC News senior national political reporter Sahil Kapoor joins us with more. Hey, Sahil, good morning.
Good morning, Joe and Savannah. We begin today in politics with the Supreme Court temporarily preserving full access to the abortion pill mifepristone while it considers a case that could sharply restrict the availability of the drug. The justices have paused an appeals court ruling that prohibits the pill from being administered by mail and require it to be dispensed only in person. Now they've extended that pause until Thursday afternoon while they consider their next steps. Louisiana, which is suing to curtail the availability of mifepristone, argues that allowing the drug to be sent by mail violates its strict abortion ban. And here in a Washington, D.C. federal court, the suspect charged with an attempted assassination of President Trump at the recent White House Correspondents' Dinner has pleaded not guilty on all 4 counts. The 31-year-old Cole Thomas Allen appeared in shackles and handcuffs as his public defender announced the plea. Law enforcement says he had multiple guns and knives on him when he bolted through a security checkpoint at the Washington Hilton Hotel. And they reference writings in which he indicated that he would be targeting multiple administration officials. And finally, a nonprofit advocacy group is suing the Trump administration on Monday to halt its repainting of the Lincoln Memorial century-old reflecting pool to a blue color chosen by the president. In federal court papers, the Cultural Landscape Foundation says the move is unlawful and that the pool should remain in its original dark gray until the administration secures the necessary approval from Congress to make changes. The group also alleges that the administration ignored proper procedure and law by failing to consult those with relevant expertise on the renovations. And that is where we begin today in politics. Guys?
All right, Sahil, thank you so much. Well, some policy experts are warning of a growing nationwide crisis as millions of Americans lose their Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program benefits that's known as SNAP. Well, since President Trump signed that big, beautiful bill into law last summer, nearly 3.5 million people have lost their benefits because the law cut tens of billions of dollars in funding for food stamps.
The law also changed eligibility criteria, which is making it harder for some Americans to get approved. There are now work requirements for able-bodied adults between 55 and 64 and parents with children 14 and older. Also removed exemptions for veterans, foster youth, and people who are experiencing homelessness.
NBC News senior policy reporter Shannon Pettypiece has been looking into this bill as part of NBC News' series Unaffordable America. She joins us now with more on this. Shannon, good morning. So you reported extensively on this bill before it even got signed into law. Some Republicans argued that these changes would push more people into the workforce, cut down on waste and fraud in the system. But what is the reality we've seen?
Yeah, well, here's what I've been finding. And I've spoken to at least 24 people who have lost their benefits in recent months and food banks across the country. And what I'm hearing, I would say, are two big things. One, that complying with these work requirements can be very difficult, especially for older adults, maybe people in their early 60s who now have to comply with them, who might not be physically disabled, but have issues like arthritis in their hands or a bad back that can make it difficult for them to do a lot of jobs. And also in rural areas, some places just don't have a lot of job options. And it is a tough job market right now where we have been seeing long-term unemployment, the number of people unemployed for a long period of time increasing. So that's having an effect on people too. The other thing, though, which is a little surprising and a bit of an unexpected consequence, is that because of the new requirements in this law on states to push them to lower their payment error rate and be more accurate in how much they're paying people. States have put a lot of new documentation requirements in place, making people document all the hours they work, all of their expenses. If they have a disability, making sure that's documented, documenting how many people are in their household. That has put a burden on people that is causing some folks to lose their benefits who should still be eligible because they have a disability or because they are caring for a young child or caring for someone with a disability. They have been losing their benefits even though they should be exempt, and they say that's because they have struggled to meet all of these documentation requirements that some states are putting in place now.
Shannon, I know you recently traveled to one of the states most heavily impacted by this. That's Arizona. What did you learn there?
The number of people who have lost their benefits in Arizona is really shocking to policy experts. It has dropped by around 50%. That is more than policy experts would have expected if you just looked at the people who would be affected by some of the new eligibility requirements. And what they say is going on there is as I mentioned, this documentation push is this wave of new requirements that are being placed on applicants. At the same time, you have an overwhelmed workforce of people who cannot keep up with these new demands, and that is causing delays in processing applications and causing people to lose benefits who should still be able to receive them.
Shannon, something else that happened here, one of those unintended consequences, like you mentioned, the cuts to SNAP forced some states to lay off hundreds of people who process the applications for this. And then that is, of course, impacting processing times. What has that been like?
Yeah, I mean, in Arizona, they laid off several hundred people last July because of federal funding cuts, the state said. Then they had this new wave of documentation requirements and eligibility requirements they had to put in place. It caused the state to struggle to keep up with the demand and the workforce needs. So the state has now been trying to use their own state funding, shifting that into their SNAP program and trying to hire on more people, add overtime hours. But again, I talked to several dozen people in the state who couldn't get through to someone on the phone, had to wait hours in person at an office to get answers to what's going on with their benefits.
Shannon, one reason you're doing this series is because of what the Federal Reserve data shows, this divide between the rich and the poor in the U.S. just trending in this direction, this huge gap for decades now. What could happen if there are more cuts to these sorts of federal assistance programs?
Well, yeah, policy experts warn that when you take away someone's food assistance, it doesn't get easier to find a job. It gets more difficult. Now people's schedules revolve around going to a food bank, or maybe now people aren't eating enough, and they're tired, they're fatigued. They start having more complications from things like diabetes, kidney disease, if they're not able to eat a proper diet. So that is one of the concerns that not just policy experts, but people on the front lines at food banks, at health clinics who treat lower income households are worried about, that this is only going to exacerbate the divide. And I should note, next year, similar requirements come in place for Medicaid. So actually talking about people being able to get and qualify for health insurance if they're low income, which again could have a ripple effect that makes it even harder for people to get a job.
All right, Shannon, great reporting here. Thank you very much for joining us with it. Coming up, America's fight against inflation is back in the spotlight this morning.
Yeah, when Morning News Now returns, we're going to dig into some new numbers that could give us a clearer picture of how the war with Iran is impacting wallets here at home. Stay with us. That's next.
We're back with some breaking inflation data and what could be the clearest look at the economic impact of the Iran war.
Yeah, in April, inflation rose 3.8% year over year. That's the highest level in nearly 3 years. It was up 0.6% month over month.
Here with us is NBC News Chief Business Correspondent Christine Romans. We're also joined by Investopedia's Editor-in-Chief and Chief Business Editor of People Inc., Caleb Silver. Good morning to you both. Christine, I'll start with you just to walk us through these numbers. What are they showing? How do they compare with previous months?
Well, look, 3.8% just shows you how hot the Iran war is driving up prices here. This is a significant jump here. 3.8%. Remember, the Federal Reserve thinks 2% is the sweet spot for inflation. 3.8% shows you how those higher energy prices are fueling in to just about everything overall here. And it's not just the energy prices. It is gas prices, but it's also this. By the way, this is the government shutdown, so you can't actually see what prices were there. But now we're more like this here. So those higher energy prices starting to feed through everything. I mean, I'm looking at airfares up almost 21% over the past year.
Caleb, we expected it to go up, but what's your reaction to this number?
Yeah, hot, but especially in the places where we have to spend money. So obviously that's gasoline, that's diesel, and that affects things like fertilizer prices. It goes right through the supply chain. So this ends up really at the grocery store where you still see food prices very high. Some of that is due, obviously, to diesel prices and fertilizer prices. But we just have this general trend of higher inflation. Christine mentioned the Fed likes inflation around 2%. Those days are long gone. Consumers know inflation probably isn't even 3.8%. It's higher than that when you think about the things we buy on a daily basis.
Yeah, and Christine, let's go through those categories because I know that's where we are seeing the pain. Yeah. Caleb just said food, energy, shelter.
Yeah, these numbers are hot off the presses, and there's a lot of them in here. And some that I really am interested in, fresh fruits and vegetables. Those are more expensive. Household furnishings, airfare. You know what I see, and I bet Caleb agrees with me, I see things that are shipped with diesel, which is 70% of the stuff in the United States that gets to your store shelves. Those things cost more because, look, farmers, ranchers, shippers, small businesses, they have a significant new cost that they have to deal with. Diesel prices are $2 more today than they were a year ago. These are those gas prices, about $4.50 here right now. And here's something else. What we're hearing from economists and the brainiacs who study this is they think that the energy shock is just beginning to come into these numbers, that we have a lot more pain ahead, especially with no real off-ramp in sight here for getting energy costs under control in the near term.
And Caleb, you mentioned the Fed. We know it meets next month. I have to imagine this just locks in what was already inevitable for them.
Yeah, you mean in 36 days, 5 hours, and 13 minutes. We'll probably have a new Fed chair by then. Kevin Moore's confirmation hearing set for today. And the inkling was for rates to go down. Rates aren't going anywhere. I just looked out until the meeting in September. You actually see a 9% probability of a rate increase by then if inflation doesn't cool.
How possible is that? I mean, that's
we're looking at 3 months. So it really depends on the duration of this war, how high oil prices stay for how long. That's going to impact just about everything. And then the Fed's going to have a very tricky decision on its hands, probably with a new Fed chair in charge.
Christine, this is the first time that inflation has outpaced wage growth since 2023, a while here. What does this mean for consumers whose budgets are already under pressure when you have a fact like that?
Look, the consumer sentiment indicators have been telling us this. People feel like the money's not lasting the month. And guess what? The numbers show the money's not lasting the month. The money that you're making, your wages are growing 3.6%, your costs are rising 3.8%. That's your purchasing power. And that is why I think so so many people have felt so rotten about the economy. To piggyback on what Caleb said about the Fed, you know, even at the last Fed meeting, there were 3 Fed governors who didn't even want to indicate that maybe the next move would be a cut. It was equally likely that there could be an interest rate increase. We've seen a decent job number in the interim. So if the job market's okay and you've got hot inflation numbers like this, the idea is, why wouldn't the Fed be wanting to raise interest rates to not have a repeat of the last time we were in this kind of a zone? Remember when they were raising interest rates too late to try to combat inflation? So there's some recent memory here on the Fed, people on the Fed board who don't want inflation to get out of control.
So for everyday Americans, they can't control what the Fed does, but what's some advice you have for them who are trying to manage the fact that maybe they're even losing money right now because inflation is outpacing wages?
They are. The value of the dollar just keeps declining. Brace yourself for it. And consumers aren't stupid. They know that inflation is going to be here for a while. I was looking at consumer expectations for inflation throughout the rest of the year. We think it's going to be around 4.5%. So use that as your baseline and build your financial plan around that, because prices aren't going down anytime soon.
Caleb, Christine, thank you both taking us through some breaking news. We appreciate it.
Some other money news now. Google's security researchers say AI is behind a serious hacking tool.
NBC News business and economy reporter Emily Lorsch has our Money Minute. Hey, Emily.
Hey, good morning, Savannah and Joe. That's right. Google says cyber criminals are using AI in more sophisticated ways to find software weaknesses and level up online attacks. The tech giant says it stopped a cyber attack in which the hackers appeared to use AI to find a hidden software bug. The company says it doesn't believe Gemini in particular was used, but instead another AI model. This marks a major turning point, as security experts have long warned that AI could help criminals identify and exploit liabilities faster than ever before. Across the pond, TikTok users can soon start to use the app without ads. TikTok says the new subscription will be for those 18 and older and will cost about £4 per month, which is more than $5. Those who don't pay will just continue to have the app with ads. The company says this change will give users more, quote, control over their experience. And if you're one of those who's always got a big appetite, you might be excited to hear Applebee's is bringing back its all-you-can-eat menu for the summer. For $15.99, the restaurant chain says it includes unlimited fries, plus shrimp, pork, and boneless chicken wings. Applebee's is just the latest company to lean in on value as chains continue to roll out new promotions to attract price-conscious consumers. Now, guys, I'm all about getting your money's worth. I love all you can eat, especially if it's, sushi, sashimi, or salad. But meat here and fries, that's got to be hard to get your money's worth.
Plus, it's like a buffet without the walking. So I feel like you're really just not burning any calories at all.
Sounds just bleak.
Just taking them in.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks, Emily.
A week from Thursday, Stephen Colbert will take his final bow on The Late Show.
Yeah, and he's getting a big send-off from some of his closest late-night friends, with Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel, Seth Meyers, and John Oliver all stopping by last night. NBC News entertainment correspondent and former Colbert intern Chloe Malat says the details. Chloe, good morning.
Hey there, this was a major late-night reunion filled with countless jokes, endless laughs, and even a kiss. The hilarious and at times sentimental send-off was part tribute, part roast, and part therapy session as they spoke about their tight bond and friendships. But in the end, it was a simple love letter to late-night TV.
Please welcome back to The Late Show, Jimmy Kimmel, Seth Meyers, John Oliver, and Jimmy Fallon.
It was a historic moment in late-night television.
You know, when I was told I was going to be seated farthest away from you, I assumed it was alphabetical, and then I went F-O. No.
The 5 biggest names in late night on one stage, up close and personal.
How many of you have made out with a guest on camera?
Why would you look at me like that?
Because I think you've made out with guests on camera.
No, I think you just wanted to make out with me.
The hosts, who dubbed themselves Strike Force 5 after launching a podcast together during the 2023 actors and writers strikes, paying tribute to Colbert 10 days before his show ends its 11-season run.
Is there anything that we have not touched on before we move on to this? I'm curious.
The outrage that your show is being thrown off the air?
Yeah.
With some teasing about his future.
Anytime you want to come on, be the greatest. I love you so much.
Well, when would be helpful to you?
Well, take your time.
Who's most likely to be doing a Cash for Gold commercial in the next 5 years?
Colbert announcing last July that his top-rated show was coming to an end.
It's not just the end of our show, but it's the end of The Late Show on CBS.
CBS saying at the time that it was purely a financial decision and was not related in any way to the show's performance. For years, Colbert's Late Show has been the highest-rated network late-night program, known for its mix of celebrity interviews, political satire, and headline-making monologues.
But who better to gamble with our economy than a guy who somehow bankrupted his own casino?
And for his swan song, he's not pulling any punches. Even airing interviews CBS banned from his show on his YouTube channel. Colbert is ending his run with a series of all-star guests. And last night, amid the jokes, paying tribute to his fellow hosts.
You guys have been wonderful friends and great models for me, and I'm so glad to know and love all of you. Thank you so much for being here.
Colbert's final episode is set for May 21st, and Jimmy Kimmel, he's not going to be having a new episode of his late night show when Stephen goes off the air, something that he also did when Letterman signed off in 2015. And after 33 years, CBS is replacing The Late Show with Comics Unleashed, a syndicated show featuring Byron Allen and a rotating panel of comedians. Back to you.
All right, Chloe, thank you.
Still don't know who the final guest will be, but I have a theory.
Who you do?
The first guest was George Clooney.
Oh,
so I'm wondering.
And big, I mean, wow, stood the test of time.
We'll see.
Yeah.
All right. Coming up, you could call it a stroke of sheer genius.
When we come back, we'll introduce you to the Virginia man who's giving yard work a wild and adorable new spin. Stick around, that's next. We're going to end this hour with some yard work with a twist. One man in Virginia found a unique way to turn weed whacking into a form of animal therapy.
Julie Carey from our NBC Washington station has a closer look at the company that some residents say is sheer genius.
Ready for your big job today? All right, come on out, cookies and cream. You can go out, Gavers. There you go, Gav. All right, one at a time.
It's a flock of sheep that can't wait to get to work. Their job? Ridding this Woodbridge yard of weeds, including poison ivy.
So these are baby doll Southdown sheep. They're an heirloom breed that is really people-friendly and easy to control. So for a suburban environment, it's ideal. Water up!
In 2015, Shepherd Corey, as he's known, and his wife bought a farm in Fairfax County. Corey says a passion for the environment and regenerative agriculture led him to see what he could do with sheep. He says he discovered in his own pastures they were great at eating weeds. Lamb Mowers was born.
But they have really ventured out into the woods a little faster than I was expecting.
Corey says the company has evolved.
I started out with the idea of being a mowing service and kind of transitioned into being a weed and feed service where our sheep eat the weeds and fertilize the yard.
Shepherd Corey and Shepherd John start each job by fencing off the work zone, and they do some of the weeding themselves. Oh, they are adorable. Their afternoon job, a return visit to a backyard in Fairfax County. Stephanie Brander first hired lamb mowers to deal with her vine-filled ravine after she saw them in the Fairfax City July 4th parade.
It was wonderful. It was 2 hours and they got more done than I could have in a week.
Oh, that's pretty awesome.
And they were fun to watch.
Indeed, lamb mowers often draw a crowd of neighbors. This mom kept her kids out of school to come watch them nibble away. And it doesn't take long before the little lambs can gobble weeds along with the big ones. Corey knows them all by name.
Here you go, Mom. Good girl. So Sunday is the mother of Matcha and Boba, the littlest ones.
And for folks with a big yard, more than 2 acres, well, these guys can stay overnight and have a sheep over.
Jobs last 2 hours because after that, the sheep need time to digest, to chew their cud. And when it's time to move to the next job, Corey's call and the rattle of the feed pan provide the signal.
Let's go, sheep! Bye, sheep!
Homeowners aren't the only customers. There are visits to schools, too. And Corey says while most customers hire lamb mowers for their weed-eating ability, others see this as just pure sheep therapy.
So we bring joy everywhere we go. Our sheep are just really friendly, sweet animals that like to say hi to people and are just kind of lower your blood pressure when you get to be near them.
Oh, my goodness. Thanks to Julie Carey for that report. If you're curious, like I am, about the price, lamb mowers cost $195 for weekday services, $295 for weekends.
I don't even have a yard, and I would consider it.
I love this so much.
Come and munch on the rug or something. All right, that's going to do it for this hour. Morning News Now.
Stay with us, though. The news continues right now.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.